Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Yesterday morning, some really exciting news for a lot of USC fans. Lincoln Riley, USC going to turn to Jayden Maiava coming out of the bye week to run this USC offense. Now, we hopped on yesterday morning and talked about this move, but we talked a lot about it from that, roster construction standpoint. What is the future of the quarterback room going to look like? I felt like we didn't talk enough about the player and what Jayden brings to this USC offense. Want to dive into a little bit of the film from what we saw from Jayden during his redshirt freshman year at UNLV. Talk about what to expect from him in this USC offense. And I want to start with, before we get into the film, just some overarching thoughts on the quarterback here. He's a winner. And that's what I love most. And that's really why Miller Moss, I think, is getting benched. Like, Miller Moss hasn't been bad for USC at the quarterback spot, quite frankly. There's a lot of Power 4 programs that I think will take Miller Moss in the transfer portal. But at the end of the day, like, USC is not winning games, and that falls at the quarterback position. I mean, Jayden Maiava took over that UNLV team that, quite frankly, historically stunk the last couple of years, led them to a conference championship game. So I think that's what you love about him first is he's a winner and he'll figure it out. From an overall player standpoint, he's going to open up this USC offense. He's going to allow Lincoln Riley to call whatever play he wants and whatever scheme he wants, kind of similar to how this offense ran with Caleb Williams. And I'm not saying Jayden's going to be Caleb Williams, but there was nothing you couldn't ask Caleb Williams to do because of how talented he was. I think you're going to get a similar offense with Jayden running the show where you go back to Miller Moss and say there's certain things that Lincoln Riley just flat out wasn't going to ask Miller Moss to do because Miller Moss is a little bit limited from an athleticism standpoint, from an arm talent standpoint. Lincoln Riley didn't really want to move the pocket because Miller Moss couldn't really throw off platform all that well. Lincoln Riley did not ask Miller Moss to run a ton of read options with him being the threat to run the football because Miller Moss is not an elite athlete. There's a lot of things that Lincoln Riley can ask Jayden to do that open up this USC offense and stuff that just Miller Moss, quite frankly, couldn't do. There's also some downside, and there's also a reason why it probably took this long for Lincoln Riley to go to Jayden. That is, he's still a raw quarterback from a decision-making standpoint. You go through, and I spent the last 2 hours watching some of these UNLV games back. There's a lot of throws that make you scratch your head. He's still a young quarterback that needs to mature a little bit from a decision-making standpoint. You're going to see Jayden make some decisions that are going to make you want to scratch your head. I think that's a foregone conclusion over the next couple of weeks. Now, I think the idea is let's let him go through some of those growing pains. Let's let him make some of those mistakes, learn from those mistakes. And if you get a version of Jayden that is making the big time throws and being the athlete that we all know he is, but also limiting the amount of turnover worthy plays and the amount of times he puts the ball in harm's way, that's going to be an extremely dangerous quarterback in 2025. And I think the whole idea of starting Jayden is, hey, let's figure out if this kid is going to be the guy in 2025 for this USC offense. Now, want to get into nothing really complex, just pull up some of the film from last year and talk about some of the things I think USC fans should be most excited for with Jayden taking over this offense. Now, before we get into it, as always, y'all know what I'm going to say. The USC fans, the amount of support y'all continue to show, highs and lows of the 2024 season, I can't thank y'all enough. And we certainly disagree on plenty with this USC program, but y'all know I love talking this program. That is the beauty of talking with y'all in the comments section. All the support means the absolute world. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Much more importantly, would love to hear some expectations that we have for Jay. He's getting thrown right into the fire. Playing Nebraska his first start. That's not it. That ain't no slouch of a defense. Really excited. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. Let's get into it, and let's start with just the pure arm talent and arm strength that this kid has. I mean, it's natural. Like, this kid can push the football down the field like the best of them. Now, we're going to stick to this Air Force game. There was a lot of highs and lows in this football game. Let's roll this first one. And it just starts with like 5-step drop. It's so easy for him. I mean, he's throwing this from his own 15 to the own 35 right on the money. But you go back and just say, like, how easy is it for him to push the ball down the field like this? The throw power and then the touch on this football, it doesn't get much better. I mean, this is poetry in motion. Just so easy. A flick of the wrist. He has that flick to him, you might say, putting it right on Ricky White. 75-yard touchdown on the second play of the line from line of scrimmage for this UNLV offense. That's where you want to start. And we're working with some elite arm talent that Jayden has, specifically pushing the ball 20 plus yards down the field, attacking that deeper third. Now, this is probably the element that I think most USC fans were frustrated with Miller Moss, the lack of athleticism and realistically the lack of playmaking ability, right? When you fire up Jayden Maiava's film, he is a playmaker. And when there are plays to be made as an athlete, Jayden can do it. Now, do you want to see him maybe keep his eyes down the field and step up into this pocket? Yeah, maybe. But when he sees an opportunity to go pick it up with his legs, not only is he very good at it, this kid is an absolute bear to bring down. He's 6'4", 220, moves phenomenally well, and he's decisive. Like, when it's time to take off and go make a play with your legs, he can do it. I mean, this is 2nd and 19. Air Force is playing a very, very soft zone coverage. Jayden Maiava is just going to go get to work, make people miss. Again, really bear to bring down. Really, really good instincts running the football, too. I mean, he turns the 2nd and 19 and moving the chains into plus territory. That's the type of stuff, like, that I think USC fans were most frustrated with. Like last year with Caleb Williams, when some of those plays broke down, that's when Caleb Williams was at his most dangerous. When plays break down for Miller Moss, it's normally just a sack or a throwaway. And Miller Moss doesn't have that athleticism and playmaking ability to do what Jayden can. And I think that's going to excite a lot of USC fans. And that's an element of football that's becoming increasingly important. You look at some of the best players in college football, the best players in the NFL at the quarterback spot, they all have some sort of athleticism to them, like extending plays outside the pocket, being a crafty runner. It matters. Most good quarterbacks have some sort of that trait. Jayden just happens to have a lot of it. Next play I want to look at, and I think this is also important, is all right, can you be an athlete, but can you also keep your eyes down the field? Like, not only look to run. This is good. 3rd and 11. This is a huge play in this football game, right? 3rd and 11. You're up by 1 fourth quarter. Can we move the chains? Can we go out and win a football game? Again, in these moments, this is when we've seen Miller Moss play his worst football. This is when you see Jayden kind of thrive. Rolling the film here. Again, pocket's going to break down a little bit. Jayden's going to get a little square, but he's going to set his feet. He's going to keep his eyes downfield. So not only is he going to extend play and be an athlete, but I don't need to scramble. Like, I know I probably can't scramble and pick up the yards. He's going to set his feet, keep his eyes downfield, throw a little bit off platform, throw a strike to the tight end that he just drops. Lake McCree ain't dropping that ball. You love to see him not only be an athlete to scramble, but be an athlete to extend plays and give his wide receivers, his pass catchers, some ability to get open down the field. Really like that aspect of his game too. Again, he's not only just creating to scramble, to run. Hey, we're going to keep our eyes downfield as well. We're going to use our athleticism to just buy some time in the pocket, buy some time for our pass catchers to create some separation, keep our eyes downfield, set our feet, throw a really good ball across the field here. You just got to come up with that. If you're that UNLV pass catcher, don't know his name, continue to work through it. And this is probably the most underrated aspect of Jayden's game here. The threat for him to keep it on these read options is going to only help Woody Marks and Quinn Joyner run the football. When you have a quarterback that these edge defenders need to respect, then you're just going to open up some more space for these running backs to operate. Now, Jayden's not going to do anything with his legs here. He's just going to snap the football. Look at the effect Jayden's athleticism has on these edge defenders. I mean, it's multiple guys. You get the second level linebacker, you get this edge defender. They're all sitting here waiting for Jayden to keep it because they know if they crash inside, Jayden can hurt them on the perimeter. They sit there. Jayden reads it well, gives it to the running back, chunk yardage. Like, when you have the ability to freeze those edge defenders, freeze those off-ball linebackers, it's only going to help your running backs create more space. And that's exactly what we see here. And so Miller Moss, when he's running that read option, look, they know edge defender, off-ball backer that's really worried about Miller Moss keeping the rock. And so Woody Marks doesn't have as much space to operate. When you have a guy like Jayden running that read option, you got to respect what he can do keeping the football. Those are some of the things. And then this is lastly, Miller Moss throwing off platform isn't good. Like, he just doesn't have that arm strength and arm talent to really throw the ball on the move all that well. Because of that, Lincoln Riley, even with all the offensive line pass protection struggles, really never really moved the pocket because Miller Moss, that's just not what he could do. He couldn't do it. You can do it with Jayden. Like, Jayden can throw off platform quite well. Now, this is when he sometimes makes some poor decisions. Get the RPO going. Keep your eyes downfield. Throw off platform against the grain here. Layer it right into that hole shot against that cover two. Make a miss. Go score a touchdown. Again, you really couldn't ask Miller Moss to make these kind of throws because that's just not kind of who he is as an athlete and as a quarterback. And so I think my overall take on Jayden, why I'm so excited to see this kid play, is there's going to be some growing pains. There's no doubt about that. There's a reason they went with Miller Moss to start the season. That is, he's probably going to be a better decision maker than Jayden. Well, Jayden's had 9 to 10 weeks in all the summer to kind of learn this Lincoln Riley offense, get sharper with that. I think Jayden knew he wasn't going to start right away coming to USC. You're hoping at this point, coming off the bye week, that the decision making gets better. And if it does, this USC offense becomes much more open. Lincoln Riley is calling the plays now with that full play sheet at his disposal. Where with Miller Moss, and again, not really a knock at Miller Moss. You guys know I'm a Miller Moss guy. You didn't have that whole play sheet with Miller Moss. There were just certain things that Lincoln Riley couldn't ask Miller Moss to do that he can ask Jayden to do. We'll shut it down there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. Again, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate y'all. Talk to you guys later.